Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, replaying an old argument or a hurtful moment from years ago? Maybe it's something someone said or did that still stings, even though it happened a long time ago. Or perhaps it's a regret you carry, something you wish you'd done differently. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many of us, especially as we get older, find that these unresolved feelings can weigh us down, sometimes more than we realize. But what if I told you that letting go of that weight, forgiving others, and even forgiving yourself, could be the key to unlocking a happier, more peaceful life after 60? Today, we're going to talk about why forgiveness is so important, especially at this stage of life, and how it can truly transform the way you feel. We'll explore 4 practical steps to help you let go of resentment and embrace a lighter, more joyful way of living. This isn't about forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of those old wounds so you can move forward with clarity and peace. So let's dive in. First, let's talk about why forgiveness matters so much, especially after 60. As we age, we tend to reflect more on our lives, the relationships we've had, the choices we've made, and the experiences that have shaped us. And while that reflection can be a beautiful thing, it can also bring up unresolved pain. Maybe it's a falling out with a friend, a strained relationship with a family member, or even a regret about how you handled a situation in the past. Holding on to those feelings can take a toll on your emotional and even physical health. Studies have shown that carrying resentment can lead to stress, anxiety, and even contribute to health issues like high blood pressure. On the other hand, forgiveness has been linked to lower stress levels, improved heart health, and a greater sense of well-being. So, forgiving isn't just about making peace with the past. It's about giving yourself the gift of a healthier, happier present. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but how do I actually do it? How do I forgive someone who hurt me deeply, or let go of something I've been holding on to for years? That's where our first step comes in. Acknowledge the hurt. This might sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful. So often we try to push our pain aside or tell ourselves we should be over it by now. But the truth is, you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. Take a moment to really think about what happened and how it made you feel. Did it leave you feeling betrayed, disrespected, or unappreciated? Write it down if that helps. The goal here isn't to dwell on the pain, but to give yourself permission to feel it fully. When you acknowledge the hurt, you're taking the first step toward releasing it. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A few years ago, I met a woman named Margaret, who had been estranged from her sister for over a decade. They'd had a falling out over an inheritance, and the bitterness had grown so deep that they hadn't spoken in years. Margaret told me she thought about her sister every day, but she always pushed those feelings aside, telling herself it was better to just move on. But when she finally sat down and allowed herself to really feel the hurt, the sadness of losing that relationship, the anger over what had happened, she realized how much it had been weighing on her. Acknowledging that pain was the first step toward healing, and it opened the door for her to eventually reach out to her sister and begin rebuilding their relationship. Once you've acknowledged the hurt, the next step is to shift your perspective. This doesn't mean you have to excuse what happened or pretend it didn't matter. Instead, it's about trying to see the situation from a different angle. Ask yourself, what might have been going on for the other person at the time? Were they dealing with their own struggles or insecurities? Sometimes, when we take a step back, we realize that the hurtful actions of others often have more to do with them than with us. This doesn't make what happened okay, but it can help you understand it better. And that understanding can be the first step toward letting go. For example, think about a time when you might have hurt someone, even unintentionally. Maybe you said something in the heat of the moment, or made a decision that affected someone else in a way you didn't realize at the time. We've all been there, right? When we recognize that we're all human and we all make mistakes, it becomes a little easier to extend that same understanding to others. Shifting your perspective doesn't happen overnight, but it's a powerful tool for loosening the grip of resentment. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What if the person who hurt me isn't sorry? What if they don't even think they did anything wrong? That's a great question, and it brings us to an important point. Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying that pain. You don't need someone else's apology or acknowledgement to start the process of letting go. In fact, waiting for that can keep you stuck. The power to forgive lies within you, and it's one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. Now that we've talked about acknowledging the hurt and shifting your perspective, let's move on to the next step. Choose to release the resentment. This is where the real work of forgiveness begins. It's one thing to understand why you're hurt, and even to see the situation from a different angle. But it's another thing entirely to make the conscious decision to let go of the resentment you've been carrying. And I want to be clear. This doesn't mean you're saying what happened was okay. It simply means you're choosing not to let it control your emotions anymore. Think of resentment like a heavy suitcase you've been dragging around for years. It's filled with all the pain, anger, and disappointment from the past. And every time you think about what happened, you're picking up that suitcase again. But here's the thing. You have the power to put it down. You don't have to keep carrying it. Choosing to release resentment is like setting that suitcase down and walking away. It doesn't mean the suitcase disappears. It just means it's no longer weighing you down. One way to do this is through a simple but powerful exercise. Writing a forgiveness letter. This is a letter you write to the person who hurt you, expressing how you feel and why you're choosing to let go. You don't even have to send it. This is for you. The act of putting your feelings into words can be incredibly cathartic. It helps you process what happened and gives you a sense of closure. And when you write that final line, something like, "I forgive you and I release this pain," it can feel like a weight lifting off your shoulders. Let me share an example. A man named John once told me about a falling out he'd had with his best friend years ago. They'd been close for decades, but a misunderstanding had driven them apart, and they hadn't spoken since. John carried that resentment for years, but one day he decided to write a forgiveness letter. He poured out all his feelings, the hurt, the anger, the sadness, and then at the end he wrote, "I forgive you, and I let this go." He didn't send the letter, but just writing it helped him release the resentment he'd been holding on to. And you know what? A few months later, he ran into his old friend, and they were able to reconnect in a way that felt genuine and healing. That's the power of choosing to let go. As we move through these steps, it's important to remember that forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event. Some days, you might feel like you've completely let go, and other days, those old feelings might come rushing back. That's okay. Healing isn't linear, and it's normal to have ups and downs. What matters is that you're taking steps in the right direction. Let's take a moment to reflect on where we are so far. We've talked about acknowledging the hurt, shifting your perspective, choosing to release resentment, and practicing self-compassion. These steps are all about creating space for healing and allowing yourself to move forward. But there's one more step we'll explore in the next part: a step that ties everything together and helps you truly embrace forgiveness as a way of life. Embrace forgiveness as a daily practice. This is where forgiveness becomes more than just something you do. It becomes a way of living, a mindset that helps you navigate life with greater peace and resilience. Forgiveness isn't a one-and-done deal. It's not like flipping a switch and suddenly everything is okay. Instead, it's a habit, something you cultivate over time. Think of it like tending a garden. You plant the seeds by acknowledging the hurt and choosing to let go. But you also need to water those seeds regularly, pull out the weeds of resentment when they pop up, and give yourself the sunlight of self-compassion. Over time, that garden grows into something beautiful, a life where forgiveness comes more naturally, and where you're able to handle life's challenges with greater ease. So, how do you make forgiveness a daily practice? One way is to start your day with a simple intention. When you wake up in the morning, take a moment to set an intention to approach the day with an open heart. You might say something like, "Today, I choose to let go of what I can't control and focus on what brings me peace." This doesn't mean you'll never feel hurt or frustrated. Those emotions are a natural part of life, but it does mean you're committing to responding to those feelings in a way that serves you rather than holds you back. Another way to practice forgiveness daily is to use small moments as opportunities to let go. For example, maybe someone cuts you off in traffic, or a family member says something that rubs you the wrong way. In those moments, instead of letting the frustration build, take a deep breath and remind yourself that holding on to it won't change what happened. It will only weigh you down. You might even try a simple mantra like, "I choose peace over resentment," to help you shift your mindset in the moment. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A man named Robert once told me about how he used to get so worked up over little things. His neighbor's dog barking, a rude comment from a coworker, even the weather not cooperating with his plans. Over time, he realized that all that frustration was taking a toll on his mood and his health. So he started practicing forgiveness in those small moments. When the dog barked, he'd remind himself that the dog was just being a dog. When his coworker made a snide remark, he'd tell himself, "That's their stuff, not mine." And you know what? Over time, those little acts of forgiveness added up. He found himself feeling lighter, more at ease, and better able to enjoy the good moments in life. Now, as we wrap up, I want to take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered. We started by acknowledging the hurt, because you can't heal what you don't face. Then we talked about shifting your perspective, because understanding can soften the edges of resentment. We explored the power of choosing to release that resentment, and we emphasized the importance of being kind to yourself along the way. Finally, we discussed how forgiveness can become a daily practice, something that helps you live with greater peace and joy. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's this. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It's not about letting someone else off the hook or pretending that what happened didn't matter. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of the past so you can live fully in the present. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to do it all at once. You can start small, with one hurt, one moment, one step at a time. Every act of forgiveness, no matter how small, is a step toward a happier, healthier you. Before we go, I'd love to hear from you. Have you tried any of these steps in your own life? Or is there a story about forgiveness that's touched you in some way? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read everyone, and I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Life after 60 is a beautiful journey, and I'm here to help you make the most of it. Remember, You have the power to let go of what's been holding you back and to embrace a life filled with peace, joy, and connection. Here's to living your best life, one act of forgiveness at a time. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and be kind to yourself.